Hey everyone, have you ever walked into a room and just wondered, why is everything here? Why is the office laid out this way? Or why is the kitchen on that side of the house? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the invisible forces, the hidden rules that shape the spaces we live and work in every single day. So let's kick things off with a pretty simple question that honestly blows the lid off a whole world of complexity. Why can't you just decide, you know what, I want a new bathroom right here, smack in the middle of the living room? The answer isn't just that it's complexicated. It reveals this whole invisible world of constraints that designers are constantly battling. See, the job of a space planner isn't really about starting with a totally blank slate. It's much more like being a detective. Their first job is to uncover and then work with a building's built-in rules, its existing bones, and its personality. And this is such a key idea to get. Every single building, whether it's brand new or 100 years old, has its own story, its own structure, its own systems. A truly great design isn't just forced on top of it. It comes out of this kind of conversation between what a designer wants to do and what the building will actually let them do. So, where does a planner even begin this investigation? Well, you start from the outside and work your way in. You start with the building's most basic structure, what they call the shell. Think of these as the biggest, most permanent rules of the game, the stuff you just can't change. Okay, so take a look at this. It's wild how much a building's basic shape changes everything. On the right, you've got a simple rectangle with a central core for elevators and stairs. That is a space planner's dream. You have so much flexibility. But then, look at the one on the left. Sure, that funky shape creates a lot of corner offices, but it also introduces all these awkward angles and makes planning a whole lot trickier. And trust me, it can get way more challenging than that. A building with huge curved walls or these really sharp, acute angles, that's a whole other level of puzzle. I mean, just imagine trying to fit standard rectangular desks or partitions into these spaces. Good luck with that. It really limits where you can logically put anything. So this building shell is really defined by a few core things. A planner has to ask, is the building held up by columns that you can plan around, or is it held up by solid bearing walls that you absolutely cannot touch? What's it made of? How far apart are the support columns? That sets your base size. And of course, what's the building's history? All of these things create the basic canvas and tell the planner how much freedom they really have. All right, let's move inside the walls and talk about one of the most powerful and honestly most frustrating constraints there is, the invisible network of plumbing. This quote really says it all. There is a very, very good reason why moving kitchens and bathrooms is famously difficult and expensive. It is all about the plumbing. Unless you have a huge budget or maybe a building with a full crawl space underneath, you're pretty much locked in by where the pipes already are. You know, planners aren't just thinking, oh, a sink would look nice over there. They're juggling three massive factors at once. They have to follow standard construction practices. They absolutely must comply with the local plumbing code. That's not negotiable. And they need to group fixtures together to keep the budget from totally exploding. And check this out. This diagram is the perfect example of the most common and cost-effective solution. You see how the fixtures from the men's and women's rooms are placed back to back? That lets them all share one common wall that's full of pipes, called a pipe chase. It's a super efficient setup that's cheaper to build and makes any future repairs way, way easier. So how does a planner know where a new bathroom could possibly go? In the very early stages of a project, it often boils down to one crucial, simple-sounding rule of thumb for drainage. 1/4 of an inch per foot. What does that even mean? Well, it means that for every foot a waste pipe runs sideways, it has to drop down by at least 1/4 of an inch. That's just so gravity can do its job and pull everything away. This one simple law of physics tells you exactly how far away a new sink or toilet can be from the main vertical waste pipe, the stack. Next up, let's talk about the system that we all feel but almost never see. Heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, or as we all know it, HVAC. This is the stuff that keeps us comfortable, and believe me, it has its own set of very strict rules. Now, the age of a building is a huge deal here. In modern buildings, you've often got these super flexible HVAC systems hidden away in the ceiling. That means planners can pretty much put walls wherever they want. But in an older building, you might be stuck with these fixed, inflexible systems that are a huge pain and incredibly expensive to change. So to get why this matters for the layout, you gotta understand a really basic principle of how air moves. The system pushes the conditioned air, the warmer, cool air, in near the outside walls to fight the heat or cold coming through the windows. Then, the return vents are put as far away as possible to make sure that fresh air actually circulates through the entire room. And this isn't just some technical mumbo-jumbo, right? This is all about our actual comfort. A good planner has to think about where people are going to be sitting and working all day. Because if you put a supply vent blowing cold air directly on top of someone's desk, well, you've just created a really annoying draft. It's a tiny detail that makes a huge difference in how a space actually feels to be in. Okay, so we've looked at the big picture, the building shell, the plumbing, the HVAC, but now let's zoom all the way in, because a great design also hangs on mastering the little tiny details, the small-scale challenges that can honestly make or break a space. For instance, look at this. In an old building with that beautiful, wide, historic window trim, you can't just slam a new wall right up against it. A thoughtful planner knows to leave just a little bit of space. That lets the original trim read as its own separate, beautiful element. It's about respecting the building's character. And it's the same idea with a special feature like a bay window. That feature is meant to feel open and airy. But as you can see here, if you stick a partition too close to it, you totally crowd it and ruin the whole effect. The much better solution is to pull that wall back and give the window some space to breathe. And here's one more perfect example of a design trade-off. To get a new wall to line up perfectly with the vertical parts of the window, those are called the mullions, a planner might have to create this little jogged wall. So it solves one visual problem by creating that nice clean line, but it introduces a new one, which is that awkward little corner inside the room. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that successful space planning isn't about some genius designer forcing their will onto a space. It's a creative collaboration. It's a puzzle-solving exercise between the planner's vision and the cold, hard, unchangeable reality of the building itself. So I want you to do something. Just take a moment and look around whatever room you're in right now. Look at the vents, the windows, how close you are to a bathroom. Now that you know some of these hidden rules, what story is your own space telling you? What kinds of puzzles did a planner have to solve to create the very room you're sitting in?